We are live. Welcome everybody to Demo Days. We are doing it on a Friday because we're having a battle royale, but very excited. Hope everybody's having a great week and a great upcoming weekend. So as some of you know, we're watching Demo Days live. Feel free to make comments in the LinkedIn, the YouTube, because we will see them in the comment section. And feel free to ask questions after the fact. Still watch it, questions. We'll have Zach here. I'll be able to respond. So I wanted to introduce Zach Kromkowski from Senteon. Zach, how are you doing, sir?
Doing great, and Bravo here will also happily answer
Bravo,
questions. He was
bravo,
meowing
wow,
in the pre-show, so I thought I'd pick him up and see if he was a little bit quieter for us. But this
bro.
guy here is about 22 pounds, so he's not going to stay held the entire time.
Dude, I was just about to say that is a big boy. Whoa. It, what are you feeding him, man?
That Kirkland food, right? Get him right.
Woo! Man, wow, okay. Wow.
I threw
That
you
guy
off
could be
at the
on a
opening, right?
reality
You
show.
you weren't expected to see this.
No, I was not. That cat could definitely go on a reality show. Maybe get into an MMA ring with Garfield.
That'd be a show.
Yeah, that'd be. um, yeah. Somebody just said Bravo is a unit. What though? Okay, we might have to do a whole another show on Bravo alone. Wow. All right. Sorry, about you just threw me off. All right. Listen. So, um, here at Demo Days, as most of you know out there, a lot of this is for managed IT providers, IT pros, and one of the things that what you guys are bringing to the table is something that's a big topic as of late, especially in 2024, compliance, and that is something that in the past it was like there's a lot here, yet you need a lot of resources,
Hmm.
money, time. Time is the big one, um, and it's hard to do that sometimes when you're smaller, or maybe not even when
Sure.
you're smaller, but there's a lot you have to do. So I'm excited because I think you guys are definitely bringing something different to the table. Can you tell us what you do and yeah, lay it out there?
Yeah, happy to open up. And I mean, compliance automation is absolutely critical. And I think it is a category that we sit in for channel program, and we're category leaders. So thank you for having us on the platform. Huge channel
Yeah.
program fans. But ultimately, Senteon, what we're doing is we're hardening workstations, servers, and browsers to the CIS standards. So a big
Okay.
talk in our pre-show is, why CIS? Why not this? Why not that? But what we'll discuss here today and kind of show some material on it is that CIS actually integrates into all of these other regulated frameworks, SOC 2, PCI, NIST, ISO, right? You can actually leverage CIS as your North Star, and they already have all of the crosswalks, all of the cross mappings, so that you can do one framework while doing all of the frameworks.
Okay. Yeah. No, I hear that because I know there's a lot of similarities. It's just like, hey, which one are you going to follow? So,
Right. So
um,
Senteon takes all of those recommendations, incorporates it into a single platform where we're able
mhm.
to create remediations, reporting, change tracking, monitoring, enforcement on well over 1,000 different settings across the platforms I mentioned.
Okay. Well, cool. I'll do it. I'm definitely down for that. So we have somebody say use CIS. I'm sorry, guys. I went into 40s now. I need glasses. It's ridiculous. And I have a hearing aid, and I'm going deaf and blind anyway. I use CIS with small business clients. CIS level 1 all day. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's so important now.
Hmm.
It's one of those things where the client may be asking you about security, always secure. They're not. I think the best way to put it, they're not exactly asking, "Are you compliant or anything?" But they're asking about, "Are you secure?" That pretty much relates to compliance in general. So
Hmm.
um, they don't realize it, but So, bro, do you? Yeah. So, do you want to jump into it, or you want me to bring it up, or?
Yeah, I mean, we can show the solution. I'm happy to kind of kick off that way. Let me put
All right.
your screen over
Let
here.
me.
And if we want to hop right into it, we absolutely can.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna get this going. So we'll be on the bottom, but we can see everything. Kind of enlarging it. All right.
Perfect. So
All yours.
I'm just going to show a really quick Senteon highlight, and then I'm going to take a step back and do some further explaining as to what's going on. So you are looking at a multi-tenant interface. It's made for MSPs, and all of our reseller partners do appreciate how the layout is done like this, right? So multi-tenancy. I'm going to
Yeah.
kick off right here with our catalog. These are going to be all of the CIS settings that you'll be able to find in their PDFs and everywhere else, but we put it into a simple table. Why this is important and what we were talking about with CIS being this North Star is that you can hit the columns button right here. And whatever, if you're looking to meet STIGs, if you're looking to meet CSF, 171, CMMC, HIPAA, whatever that is, give those check marks. And then you can actually see, does this setting align to this framework or doesn't this, right? You will find some blanks. Blanks just simply mean this setting does not have a direct correlation to that framework, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What you can do within Senteon is you can actually filter out the blanks. And now you can see every single setting that fits within that framework and where it sits across other frameworks. And on top of that, this is going to be a very important point. Let's talk about SOC 2 for a moment, right? You see the CC 6.1. What does that
Yes.
mean, right? I mean, in all honesty, like you may not even know what the setting means. Shares that can be accessed anonymously, like what is that? You can click into the setting. You can see the pathway. You can see the description, the rationale, the potential impact, the machine key, right? This is so you could do this manually if you choose not to use Senteon's automation. But the most important thing is you can see why it crosswalks to any of the frameworks. In this case, this setting is a subset mapping.
Mm-hmm.
And in HIPAA, this is again mapping here via subset, CMMC, another subset, but it could be an equivalent, subset again, a superset, or an intersect. And we do define what each of these mean within our platform. So that's the most important thing to understand is when people say, you know, I want to be SOC 2, I want to be HIPAA. By doing those, you're already doing CIS, you just don't know it. CIS encompasses a lot more so that you can meet all of the requirements across the board as opposed to just focusing on one.
Man.
What'd you
All
think of
right.
that, Garrett?
I like that because you simplified it. Came out swinging there, man. Because I yeah, because I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna do CIS or SOC 2, ISO, things like that, and it's kind of like, okay, well, we really got to focus on this, but the way you've sort of inner threading it, and kind of all right, so that's interesting. Um, hmm.
So I can, now that we kind of have the deeper dive, this was a little fast, like you said, Garrett. I'm going to take a far step back, and I want to define exactly what Senteon is doing. So within CIS, and let me pull up another visual for us to look at. They are made up of what's called the CIS critical security controls. These are the CIS controls. There's 18 of them, right?
Yeah.
And these 18 controls, which are going to be listed right here, they're called controls, but they're actually a prioritized list of things you can do to your business in order to be more secure. So once you finish steps 1 through 17, you of course now get to step 18, which is actually testing your security, right? So you can't do a penetration test, or you shouldn't, until you actually do the previous 17 steps, right? So this is a prioritized list that CIS already did for you, and you can follow it as a North Star. Does that make sense as your interpretation of CIS2? Not interpretation, that is truth, but does that make sense from an explanation standpoint?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. You don't want to spend a lot of time and money on especially a third party scan, things like that. But yeah,
Exactly.
I totally get that.
Cool. So one thing I really want to point out, what Senteon does primarily falls into secure configurations, right? This is the primary area Senteon services. We change and harden configurations, okay? The things you
Hmm.
should do before that is, of course, your hardware inventory, your software inventory, your data protection, right? Because if you don't know what your asset inventory is, how do you know what you're going to secure? Okay, now the next point I'm going to make here is the most critical. We're talking about secure configuration management, number 4 in priority. If we scroll down, you see account management, privilege access. Number 7 is vulnerability management. Secure configuration management, according to CIS, should come 3 steps before vulnerability management. And there are a lot of vulnerability scanning tools out there. We talked a lot about those yesterday at Battle Royale, right? There's so many scanning tools out there, and they're important. But the thing everyone skips is secure configuration management, proper account management, and least privilege access, right? These 3 things should be addressed in some form or fashion before you get to vulnerability management. And that's a gap that I feel a lot of MSPs simply haven't really dove into enough. And there's a lot of opportunity for Senteon to make this easier, but also just for education around the topic.
So I'm sorry, what do you mean? Like all these others getting, they're skipping this? What, I'm sorry. So run that by
This
me
is
again.
priority number 7 is vulnerability management, right? And I was just referencing the scanning tools, and we partner with these scanning tools. So like Cyrisma, right? We partner with them, right? They perform scans, but they're not actually performing the secure configuration remediation aspect, right? So what CIS is saying is you need to actually configure your assets before you start scanning them.
Okay, I get it. So you're basically saying, hey, well, we'll configure it for you. Okay, all right, that's okay. Got it.
So that's where we fit in the greater CIS controls. What I'm now going to do is go even more granular into CIS. So within CIS, they also have what's called the CIS benchmarks. So CIS benchmarks, I'm just going to do an example with a Windows 10 machine. The CIS benchmarks are going to be recommendations on how to configure the OS. So they have settings, right? This PDF is about 1,400 pages, and there's about 500 different settings in here, ranging from network security to Windows Defender settings, firewall settings, LDAP, right? There's 1,400 pages and about 500 settings in here. And if you look at these closely, you'll see they tell you, hey, for this setting, set it to this. For this setting, set it to this. And when you click into any of these settings, it will give you a deeper dive, right? And when you scroll down, when applicable, it will actually tell you where it fits within those CIS controls. So in order to achieve compliance and achieve CIS, you need to configure your assets, because the things that happen here will then facilitate greater compliance, not only in CIS, but everywhere else. And to make this explicitly clear for everyone joining the call today, this is what Senteon does. This entire PDF of all of these settings, this is what we remediate, this is what we harden, this is what we report on, track changes to, and we enforce. We make it so every MSP out there never has to read this PDF. We do all of it.
So for those of you out there, I know it doesn't give you your name or LinkedIn user, but so you use CIS for your business clients. Are most of you, curious, are you using, do you have your own templates that in, 365 Intune, or are you manually doing it, or I'm really curious what you guys are doing out there. But this, yeah, man, anything with 1,400 pages. Yeah.
Yep. And I want to go to the next level as well. While you were doing that introduction, and shout out, I think it's Brandon Casey in the comments. Shout out to you for being here on the webinar. Feel free to drop some more comments. But this right here, I'm now showing the 1,000 page PDF on how to secure your server. Right. So not only do you have to do the 1,400 pages for the workstation, there's another 1,100 pages for the server. Right. So this goes from 500 settings to now 1,000 settings. And if we want to take this even further, let's not forget about securing your browser, whether that's Chrome or that's Edge. There's another 100 settings within Chrome you can change to increase your security posture. Again, this is what Senteon's doing. We make it so you never have to read any of these settings. And I think one of the most interesting thing is a lot of people always tell me, Zach, I don't want my clients to save their password to the browser. Look at this. This is actually a setting CIS already recommends not to allow. And yes, Senteon will do that for you. But Senteon is not only doing that, it's doing the 100 other settings that you never would have taken the time to do without us. Because again, it's just too much work. Senteon eliminates the manual work, the manual understanding, and it performs a learning mode and then remediation without causing disruption. That's what we do.
Yeah, do you, I mean, I know you're showing what they have for their guides, but do you also link into like Edge, anything like that?
Exactly. Right. So it doesn't matter what browser you use. CIS has recommendations on Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Opera, and that is what Senteon is doing for you. No plugin required, right? It doesn't matter. We can configure it on our own for you.
That's cool.
All right. So let's get into a little bit more exciting things, and let's actually get into an onboarding session. So today's session is actually going to be a real onboarding. I'm going to do every step of onboarding here live on the call on real VMs. Okay. So once Senteon is deployed, the very first proof of concept or value add that you can see internally or even present to your partners is you can generate an endpoint report. This endpoint report, you choose your tenant and you're going to want to do a gap assessment. This gap assessment is effectively going to be similar to some of your scanning tools, whether you use Qualys, Tenable, Cyrisma, right? Whatever you use, this will be similar to their scans. Why I say similar and not exact. Senteon, in this instance, because of how we manage these settings, is likely to be a little bit more accurate. I don't say that as a slight to any scanning tools. I say that because Senteon only works at the local policy level. We do not care what GPO says, Intune says, or any PowerShell script. We are looking at the source of truth on the per endpoint level. So why you see 4 different bars here, I can close that up, but you see 4 different machines. That's what we're working with. Why that
Right.
point is so important to understand is if you're an MSP and you're like, I already do this via Intune, I already do this via GPO, give Senteon a chance. And what I'll show you is this machine has 73 correct settings. This machine, 78. This machine, 82. Why is each machine configured differently if they're all on the same domain? That's the question I'll ask you. And 10 times out of 10 times, you'll say, I don't know. And it's not your fault. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm not making fun of you. It is not your fault. Microsoft is inconsistent. And Senteon brings consistency, standardization, and ease of use to well over 1,000 different technical policies.
Okay. So if you don't mind me jumping in here,
Yeah, hop
so
in.
I know exactly what you mean about Microsoft being inconsistent. How are you doing APIs or like how are you able to,
Yeah, so great question. So
you
we
know,
are an agent-based tool. Okay, so we leverage our platform hardening agent to directly communicate with the Win32 API directly, no PowerShell, right? So once you get the agent on the machine, you can disable PowerShell and we will still function as normal. It's very critical to understand because we take security, our own attack surface very seriously, right? We are an agent. We understand the risk that can introduce. So we've taken the measures to limit our attack surface by basically removing the ability to run arbitrary scripts, removing as much ability as possible at the agent level so that we can only do one thing and one thing only, and that is change the settings that we have explicitly listed here in these reports.
okay. All right. That's good to know.
So yeah, and to take
Okay.
this a little bit further too for you, of course you want to know which 82 are correct, what's so wrong. This is where Senteon will show you. So you not only see the recommended option, but you also see what it's actually configured to. And not only that, you get to see where it fits into those other standards you care about, whether that's 171, CMMC, HIPAA, PCI, SOC 2, right? I don't care where you're looking. We will tell you. And again, if there's blanks, you can filter them right out, right? So now you can have a gap assessment tailored just against the framework you care about. What that means to your clients, well, you can export this directly to Excel. You can show your client all of their gaps, and then you can say, hey, I need X amount of more budget so that I can invest into a hardening platform, increase your security posture, and increase your compliance. And here's how I'm going to prove it to you. And Senteon will do that and prove it to you in minutes.
Whoa, that's all right. We can talk about this later because I know you're in the middle of this, but I'm just now, when I have my MSP, dude, this is something. I don't know. I'm interested because this is that absolutely something. If I have a prospect, I could run something like this. If I don't know if you can do it at that point, but this would be amazing.
Absolutely. If you have a good relationship with your prospect and they allow you to deploy Senteon to their machines, talk about a value prop. I even had one, this is, I'll share the story because it was told to me the other day, but client retention. When an MSP goes to a prospect who's using another MSP and they try to steal that client, right? I mean, this happens. It's the real world. That new MSP may perform a vulnerability scan. And if you haven't done remediation via Senteon or manually, if you have that type of time, they will get this scan and your client is going to be like, what the hell is my MSP doing? Right? By hardening your systems, by cleaning your vulnerability scans and making all of those red marks green in the scan, what leg does that new MSP have to stand on when they try to steal your customer?
Yeah, it's okay. This is very interesting.
Yeah, so this is one aspect of the tool to talk about. Let's generate a different report now. So I'm now going to do an executive summary. So you obviously saw I did 4 machines. We're still going to be doing 4 machines, but now we're going to be looking at an executive summary. So I'm going to generate this report here. And this is going to be the aggregated total of all of the machines into a single report. So instead of clicking through machine by machine, this is going to put all of the totals together. Because if you have 100 endpoint prospect client, right, you're not going to want to click 100 times. That's too much. So what we can see here in the first one is a compliance overview. So the aggregated total of all 4 of these machines is about 1,500 non-compliant and 300 that are, right? I can choose CMMC and all of the numbers will populate accordingly, right? That's how Senteon works. But that's not the cool part, actually. Consistency summary. You remember how I clicked on each one and I said how they were all different?
Yeah.
Here's Senteon showing you that at scale. If you deploy Senteon out to 100 different machines, you will be able to see how many machines are configured differently. If you have 100 machines out there and you get 25 variants, that means there's a 25 different combinations of settings across 100 machines. How the hell are your engineers going to know what is correct if you have 25 different correct states? It's impossible. Yeah. You have to standardize your machines, configure them the same way so that you can best manage your clients and your own internal business. The last part here is leaning a little bit into just, I don't know, scare selling. No one likes to talk about it, but we do map our settings to the MITRE attack chain. Let's say you have a very mature customer and they're like, hey, MSP, I'm already paying you so much. How you've done everything. I don't need more security. Well, this is a chance for you to elevate the conversation with them. Hey, Mr. Client, we've done our best with EDR, whitelisting, XYZ tool. We've done it all. But at the end of the day, we need to look at your Windows internals, your system internals, because if we don't, this is your risk at the internal system level. And remember, this is the priority number 4 for CIS. An EDR, Matt Lee would shame me. I think an EDR is priority number 15. I'd have to double check that. But yes, this is that much higher. So, and the best, I mean, Garrett, I mean, here's my sales prop. Everything you've seen so far, free, 0 charge.
But I'm sorry. Wait, what? What do you mean? What do you mean free?
No
you
bill.
mean like an NFR for internal?
No, 100% free.
Explain yourself.
Nothing to explain.
All right.
It's free.
So Senteon is free to use.
All of what you've seen so far is free. Without remediation, it's free.
Oh, okay. So I can run all of this, but if I want
Everything you've seen
remediation,
so
okay.
far is free.
All right. Wow. Okay. So I can use this and deploy it if I have 50 different tenants that I'm overseeing. It's free. But if I want to, well, remediate, do something about it. Okay. Okay. I got you. All right. All right. All right.
Exactly. So for the rest of the presentation, I'm now going to transition to what it takes to perform remediation and actually execute on security. No longer just having a red scan, but actually turning the red marks green. That's the whole point of performing a scan. But today, and hey, anyone in the comments, tell me I'm wrong. Today, after a scan is performed, rarely is it actioned on. Senteon performs that action for you in minutes. All right, let's dive into it. So you're going to want to go to your tenants, right? You can have as many tenants as you want. The way you're going to know if you have an action to take within a tenant is going to be this actions required. You can see we have 4 actions to take right here. So we're going to enter that tenant. We did already deploy Senteon before the call, but let's just show you what deployment looks like. So we have 3 different setup options. The best practice is going to be automatic evaluation. So I'm going to click generate code and script here. This will be a silent MSI, wget already included, and all of the pre-populated flags already exist for a simple copy paste. All you have to do is get the agent on there and Senteon will do the rest. So the learning mode will conclude. Learning mode is really unique because it's not a 2-week behavior learning. It's actually looking at historical data, and that learning mode will complete in seconds. Now, I'm going to talk about more mature partners of ours, okay? So you are going to be able to do a after learning mode and you create your golden image. Again, we have global images. So once you have an image that you just, Senteon, I don't care about learning mode. If something breaks, that's okay. I want to skip learning mode and just change the settings. That's okay. We have an automatic setup, a skip learning mode button. All you need to do is select the golden image you want. You can see new flags have been added to the script and now a copy paste in one script, over 1,000 settings change and you're done. You walk away. Talk about less than 60 seconds to harden a Windows box without group policy, without, well, PowerShell within the agent, right? PowerShell to deploy the agent, but no PowerShell, no group policy, and no Intune. 1,000 settings change just like that.
Wow. Okay. Okay, that's cool. My next question. Okay, after this, definitely. I guess the end user experience after deploying, something like this. That's we can get to that. But let's see.
For 1,000 settings times. So
Wow.
during the first time setup, you are going to create that golden image, and we've already done the legwork for you. So I'm going to go into here for it really quick, but you can see here, baseline primer. What does that mean? So of these 1,000 settings, we've already interfaced and determined which settings the end client will notice and which settings the end client won't notice. And then for all of the other settings, we run our learning mode. But for example, for account lockout, let's say, I cannot gather telemetry through our agent and say, no, your clients will not be mad if they have a 5 invalid logon attempt, right? I don't know the answer. You need to tell Senteon, yes, I want to be CIS compliant here because 5 invalid logon attempts should lock them out. So these are the security culture questions, right? I can't tell you if they can handle Control-Alt-Delete. I can't tell you if they can handle a 15-minute machine inactivity timeout, right? This is your security culture that you can customize for your clients so that you never get yelled at. But we already did the legwork to say, hey, a message logon text, this is known to make the client very confused and sometimes scared. Are you sure you want to use this setting, right? We do all of this for you. We've already broken it up into all of these categories so that you don't have to think as hard. All right. So now that we've talked about that, let's go further into setup. So like I said, everything you need to do lives in Action Center. So I'm going to access. And like I said, we're going to onboard 4 machines today. So I'm going to hit initialize right here. And if this was my first time using it, I would hit create new. Since I've obviously done this before, I'm just going to add it to an existing golden image I already made. So I'm going to hit initialize. What initialize means is take the telemetry, take the learning mode that you already gathered and completed from these 4 machines, and then tell me what you think will break if I change the settings to this image. Okay. Tell me what you think will break before breaking it. Okay. I mean, Garrett, when you were an MSP, you ever change a setting and cause a disruption by accident?
Man,
Not once.
PTSD, bro.
You never broke anything.
Oh,
All right.
yeah, I've broken all kinds of stuff, you know?
All right. Diving deeper, and for those of us in the audience today, this is where it's going to get a little technical, right? Setup should be performed by more of a senior tier 2 engineer, but after setup, help desk can manage this tool. Tier 1 can manage this tool. But I do recommend having someone more senior do the initial setup. Okay. All right. The very first category, variable compliance settings. There are things that are not installed on the Windows device by default. But if they are installed, it changes the recommendation on how to secure the setting. Okay. So right here, we have 6 settings. I'm sorry, 6 settings with 2 endpoints affected. So now the first part of learning mode is on 2 of those 4 machines, we found IIS is in fact present. Again, by default, this should not be there. But again, let's say hypothetically, I'm a very mature engineer. I'm onboarding a healthcare client and I go, yep, they need IIS. I already have that documented. Please, Senteon, keep it that way. So you tell Senteon, yep, leave it how you found it. Current endpoint. So now Senteon is saying, yes, we found this. No, it's not compliant, but I need to keep it. Make an exception and leave it how you found it. That's what I just did in front of you. Now, one of the 4 machines has a Linux subsystem. Who the hell has a Linux subsystem? You can click modify. You can see who of the 4 machines has it. And then you can see what it's set to and you make a decision. You can either disable it to maintain compliance or you allow them to keep it how we found it in manual, which is non-compliant, and you document. Holy crap, document everything, approver, reason, whatever you want to type here, because this will populate in your documentation. I'm sorry, your reports. And when your senior engineer leaves, because churn is real, guys, now the new person who manages Senteon or manages GPO already know why the exception is made. Now they can have a smooth handover process from one owner of Senteon to the next. Document when you accept risk. And best of all, your auditors will also know why you accept risk. Cool. All right, I'm not going to accept risk. I'm going to keep it disabled. In fact, I'm just going to disable this whole screen, right? I'm going to harden those settings. Okay. That's the first piece of learning mode, determining what's there. Well, the opposite of determining what's there is proving what's not there. This is everything else Senteon checked for, and we determined is not there. So you'll see all 4s and then 2s and 3s. That's because this is the exact inverse of the screen we just saw. Okay. We need to address every single endpoint we onboard at once because we're highly scalable. We do it all at once. Since none of this is present, all of it is absent, meaning it's not there, we can very confidently harden this entire screen. And now you can see most of this says not installed or whatever the CIS recommendation is. So if this ever gets installed in the future in an unauthorized way or malicious way, indicator of compromise, right? Senteon is going to alert you in real time and perform remediation on this setting for you. 0 action required. Any questions on the first part of this learning mode section, Garrett?
It's not a question, it's just more of a reflection. That's pretty slick to be able to show you, what is and what isn't, and how it affect, and then you
Think
could.
about when you get a new client, right? What the hell kind of
Mhm.
risk are you inheriting? Now you know before you join them to your network. You know what you're getting into before you make them
Yeah.
a customer, right? All right. What's the next section here? Pre-configured settings. If you guys remember in that gap assessment, we had nearly 400 gaps per device. I cannot ask you or any of your engineers to look at 400 gaps per device. That's way too much work and there's not enough time in a day. Senteon will instead ask you to look at every single setting that was modified before Senteon was installed. Okay, so this could have been changed intentionally, maliciously. A Windows update changed it. A new application update changed it. Something before Senteon got here changed this setting. And I need
Mhm.
you to review the settings we present here. And I need you to tell me, is this allowed or not allowed? Okay, so for one of the 4 machines, I can see all of the audit policies are set to no auditing or only failure. So now as an engineer, I go, that's not okay. How is our SIM or our log aggregator ingesting logs if we're not collecting any? Holy crap, this is a huge red flag. And again, as a mature engineer, I'm going to say, I know this is not company standard. I know this machine has the resources to collect logs. I'm going to set this to my company standard, right? And I will
Mhm.
note, I say company standard because company standard might be success and failure for all of these. So you can customize this within Senteon at the golden image level, right? For purposes of this, we're just doing CIS. Now, that's an easy example. What if you find a setting that you don't know what it is? For example, act as part of the operating system set to everyone. That doesn't sound good, but I don't know what this setting is. Click modify, see whose machine it is, and then read about the setting. Now you never have to Google again. ChatGPT is hot right now, right? You don't even have to chat GPT. You can look right within Senteon, learn what the setting is, and then determine if you're willing to accept the risk. In this case, this is a user display permission, but effectively
Yeah.
it's an admin in disguise, guys. This is a setting you should never find. And you can see here the target option to be compliant is no one. And currently everyone has access. Huge red flag. I would say as an engineer, I'd go, I do not accept the risk. I do not care if it causes disruption. Secure that setting. And you're going to see now we change it from everyone to no one. So what about the opposite of that? I already showed you we have IIS on this system. And you might expect with IIS to have SMB1 there. So this is an SMB1 finding, and it's triggered to enabled automatic start. As a cautious engineer, I cannot risk disruption. I am fired if I cause disruption. Leave it how you found it. That is your safe button. Current endpoint. Leave it how you found it and make an exception group. That's the safety of Senteon. That's the safety of learning mode. Templates do not work. Templates do not take consideration for reality. Senteon does. So now your engineer has all of the contextual data he needs or she needs, and they can make decisions based on the type of risk they're willing to accept, meaning leave it how you found it, or the type of risk they're not willing to accept, hardening. Now you have a custom baseline with built-in exception groups at the per endpoint level, automatically generated for you, no manual work needed.
So I'm kind of thinking about something here. You're talking about images, like Windows. Yeah, autopilot, things like that. Can I essentially basically stand up something and say, man, I have this image that I'm using for my client. I could use Senteon to get everything just right. Could I essentially save that image and use that as my
Yep.
autopilot? And then,
So you can set a global image. So at deployment of a device, you can just put this image straight on the machine. One PowerShell script, no action needed after that.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. All right. So let's just say I'm onboarding somebody tomorrow and I haven't had a chance to get an image going and everything, but I could just drop basically as you know, they get the autopilot going, they're going through their, the setups. Um, I could just drop this endpoint into there and that it'll do its thing. How long does it take for it to, is it like instant or is hey, it's gonna take
Yeah, about a
an hour
minute,
or
45
okay.
seconds.
So it'll do everything in about
Yeah, so I'm literally going to show you during the call right now remediation. I'm actually going
okay.
to configure these devices live on air. The one other section I want to talk about here is settings with detected conflicts. So not only in this category did learning mode find something set in a way it didn't expect, it also determined a unique data point that we can guarantee if you change this setting, you will cause disruption, right? This is a guarantee. So in this example, block Microsoft accounts, this is referring to personal Microsoft accounts. This has nothing to do with Entra, Intune, or anything else. And now you can
Okay.
see which endpoint will have the disruption and a conflict. What is the conflict? In this instance, we found the account Z Hackerman with this SID string on the device. Now, again, that engineer has more contextual awareness than they've ever had before. And they can either go, they are not logging on with the appropriate workflow, block them,
Hmm.
make them have disruption because I don't care. They have to sign on with the approved way. Or I cannot risk disruption. I document my risk. I create an exception group and I deal with this later. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's take this even more exciting, right? Learning mode. Not we don't only care if NTLM or SMB1, we don't care if it's on necessarily. We care if it's on and being utilized, right? We're telling
Okay.
you, will this cause disruption or won't this cause disruption? So
I like
that's a
that.
really big thing to understand, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
We take into consideration not only the MSP's ease of use, we take into consideration the end client behavior. Senteon thinks
hmm
about the full picture so that you don't have to have those hard conversations of telling your client why disruption happened. All
yeah,
right,
man, that's a big deal. I mean,
it is a big deal. Yeah.
oh,
So the
uh,
screen we're looking at here now, there were some findings that we didn't anticipate, right? So because we accepted risk and we had findings we didn't expect, we need to create an exception group, right? So we're going to add that into our exception group. And in this case, we have 2 exception groups so far, right? Because we also accepted risk on this setting. So we're going to create another exception group and so on, right? We have a philosophy of manage by exception. That's perfectly okay. Exceptions are not bad. They just need to be documented, and we document them for you. The best part is there is a save for later button if you're not ready to make changes, but guys, this is it. Single click, done. You just changed 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 settings in under an hour.
all right. So right now, when you just said that, I'm like, oh, am I looking for my emails now? I'm looking for calls. But no, it's this is pretty because usually when you make a change, you're expecting some communication, but okay, all right, huh? Now that was a lot.
Right. So there is going to be more to the platform than just this, right? That was the engineering setup portion of the call. Now I'm going to get over to the management, right? I'm going to demonstrate the post activation reporting. I'm going to show change tracking. I'm going to show drift handling. I'm going to show it whatever's the most valuable to everyone in the audience. But let's go ahead and see if this is done applying changes yet. So this right here is just a little refresh icon. Let's see.
Hmm.
So 3 of the 4 are already done. How do I know they're already done? I can see config status says healthy. I can also click into the machine. I can see its asset inventory and I see that healthy again. Healthy means all of the target options that I set completely custom 100% match the real-time current option. Again, not what your GPO says, not what Intune says, not what your scanning tool says. This is local policy truth. This is guaranteed configuration state, zero room for error, right? We're checking the truth source, unlike the other players who look at GPO, because GPO is not reliable. GPO has a display value and a backing value. Scanning tools look at the display value. If the backing value is different, then what's the point? Anyway, not only here do we see the current option and target option, we see compliance, right? Healthy does not mean compliant, because you can have Senteon target non-compliant choices, okay? But to take this a step further, your auditor comes in. Hey, show me NTLM and the change history for the last 3 years. Very easily, you click view history, and now you can see Z Kromkowski went in, changed it from this to that at this time, and you can export all of this via Excel. So you hand this over to the auditor and say, here's the last 3 years of change history. Boom. Now your auditor has all of the change history. Your engineers are now accountable for the settings they change, and Senteon is performing remediation when you forget to change a setting back. All of this is done hands-free, automated. And let's say hypothetically, disruption does happen, right? You didn't expect something to break, which happens, right? Senteon also retains all of the previous values. So now you can see, what was it before Senteon? You know, search for whatever setting you want, whether that's IPv6, a CVE recently, right? What was it before, right? Now you have all of the data of what it was before. And if that disruption happens, very easily, you take the machines experiencing the disruption and you hit disable. A full rollback in a single click. One click, everything goes back to how it was. Operations are resumed. And now you can take your time to change your golden image and re-enable it when you're ready.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
But wait, there's more. So why does this say actions required? Why do I still have 2 actions required if I'm done, right? That doesn't make sense. Why, right? Well, we can go to Action Center and we can figure out why. Drift status alarms. So now we can see each of the machines and their respective settings of the settings that have drifted. So drift means Senteon was successful, and then sometime in the future, something else outside of Senteon changed it. And now Senteon is trying to change it back, right? This could be an Intune conflict, a domain conflict, right? Senteon will always try to fix it, and it's going to try to fix it 3 times in a row. And if it fails all 3 times in a row, see if I can time this right live on air. Nope. Once it tries 3 times in a row, this status of agent is resolving will switch to corrective action failed, right? Once you see corrective action failed, that is the only time ever after setup do you ever need to sign in to Senteon again. Why do you never need to sign into Senteon again? Because it's hands-free. After setup, you never sign in again unless you see the status of corrective action failed. So why do you need to sign in, right? That's because drift happened and Senteon couldn't fix it. Now your engineers are at least going to get data points that they never had before. You get to, again, see the machine, the time, the setting, but more importantly, what was it trying to do? What was the backing value of what it was trying to do versus what is it drifting to? Now your engineers not only know the time, the machine, and the setting, they know what it's supposed to be versus what it actually is, which is something they never had before. We're giving pieces of the puzzle that engineers desperately need to do their job effectively. And now you can see Senteon has officially failed. That'll generate a specialty alert notifying you to sign into Senteon and handle the setting, right? So now you get more information than ever before. The most interesting here, Garrett, like this is the real value. You onboard 50 machines. 50 machines, all of them have the same 2 settings drift. That's a domain misconfiguration. You can fix it. That's easy.
Yeah.
What about on those 50 machines? There's 3 of them that have 6 settings drift, 7 settings drift, 8 settings. What's different about those 3 machines that are having drift that the other 47 aren't? That is the granularity that you will get with Senteon that you get with no other platform. And let me tell you, if a bad actor does get into your system, they're not going to change all 50 machine settings. They're going to change 1 machine. That one machine, knowing when that setting changes, can be a actual indicator of compromise. And Senteon will not only notify you, it'll try to change it back.
So we have about 5, 6, 7 minutes left. But all right, let's just say you have templates. You've already set up a lot of stuff with, like, say, Edge, passwords. I guess there's two things I'm thinking about here is, if Senteon is using the CIS to say there was an update, you guys are, I'm assuming you're gonna update that. Hey, there was an update with CIS, and then you're gonna push. But what if my Intune is set to something lower? I mean, it syncs, right? Is it? Do I have the ability to make a change in my Intune? Or, I mean, because I'm trying to think here, like, because would they basically fight with each other if
Right.
I mean,
So what I was showing there in that drift is that if they fight, once they fight 3 times, and if ultimately they fight 3 times and the setting is still drifted, Senteon will
yeah,
stop trying. That is your roadmap of what's misconfigured elsewhere. You know how to avoid having drift entirely? You take the learning mode seriously. Every single piece of settings that will drift will populate in learning mode, right? You are making the decision during the risk assessment, during the learning mode findings, to saying, oh, I don't care that this finding was here, harden the setting anyway. When you say that, it's very likely, I say likely because it's not guaranteed, but it's likely that setting will drift afterwards. Why don't I say it's guaranteed? Because Intune's inconsistent. You will change policies at the local level. Sometimes Intune will care, sometimes they won't. Intune is not a security tool. Do not treat it as such.
yeah, I hear that. So okay, we have a few minutes left here. I want to get to something because you said earlier. I'm still trying to. You said this was free until remediation. What is, if you don't mind me asking this? All right to ask, but like, what for MSPs? What does this cost per endpoint? Do you do it by endpoint? You're like, what does this
Yeah.
look like if I
So
want
we
to
have a
deploy?
very friendly model for our MSPs, and I will note I'm going to list our list price on air. Just like any security vendor, there is going to be scale, but our list price is going to be workstation, server, and browser remediation, and that list price starts at $2 per endpoint per month. Right? You are getting not only all of the free assessments before paying, you're getting the remediation once you choose to pay. So take the time to deploy this to your entire customer base. Make the sale, right? In
Mm-hmm.
reality, every single one of my partners will echo this, and just seasoned professionals will echo this. Standardizing your configurations will increase your operational efficiency, engineer happiness, and ultimately your bottom line. Because when everything is configured the same way, everything gets better. So
Yeah.
what a lot of our partners do is they will eat the cost out of the gate, and then they'll just up their price point at the renewal. Okay. But if you need to upsell it, we also have documentation to assist with that. So Senteon does go the next step here, and we will actually go ahead and we put together a whole university, right? So if you don't know what hardening is, you can learn about hardening. If you don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
use Senteon, you can learn how to use Senteon. But the more important thing here, guys, is learn how to sell, right? So we do have our distributor folder, our email templates, brandable content. I'm going to talk about that. We have sales presentations, we have one pagers, but my favorite one is right here, use cases. I understand your clients don't know what CIS is. I understand they don't know what hardening is. What do they
Yeah.
know? Do they know what a phish is? Do they know what an insider threat is? You tell me what they know, and I've created a story, right? So, insider threat. In this hypothetical scenario, Innotech is afraid of insider threats. This is about them. Here's their challenges as to why they're afraid of insider threats. And here is how hardening mitigates the risk of an insider threat. Best of all here, all of these PDFs, you can download them directly to Canva. I give you my work to put your logo on. You can remove Senteon entirely, and you can just use these with your logo and make the sale. I mean, I've created the entire sales process completely for you and I did this with Heather Noggle, shout out to her, but we've created blogs, right? Telling you, hey, this is what's going to change from the end client perspective, right? So we have done all of the work to make this as simple as possible without your clients being upset about more security. And I heard you mention updates really briefly. So I'll show this at a
Yeah,
quick level. CIS has a new version, a new CVE comes out, a new Microsoft setting comes out. There's going to be a lot of AI settings coming to the Microsoft OS level. They already try to ingest all of your privacy settings if you don't change those. They already do that by default. So that's another reason you need Senteon. But AI settings are coming, if not already there. We will add these settings for you at scale. So we have a full automation engine that all you have to do is click start update and it will change the settings across all of your clients at once. And if you're afraid of what that'll look like, you can nerf Senteon a little bit so that the automation doesn't take place automatically. You can configure this engine to your company standards so that it reacts the way you want it to instead of best practice. Okay, this is a fully customized automation engine that you can customize so that in a single click, you can change 100 settings across 1,000 machines at once, across 1,000 tenants at once, right? The scale is unmatched. You can do anything you want all at once.
Wow, man, that's we have a few minutes left, but that this is awesome. Yeah, no joke. I'm not saying that just because you're on here, but I absolutely see the value and the time savings and wow. I know a lot of people have been commenting. Somebody said, yeah, this is good stuff, and so I'm gonna kind of start to wrap it up here. But I'm gonna. Do you have any last things you want to share real quick before we
Yeah,
start wrapping this up?
big thing. I'm happy to take any calls. I can also here. I'll share really quick my I could just show this. I do a lot of webinars. Kevin Dutchwitz is coming up. Did an automation one with Jared Brantley. We're going to talk about configs and IR and forensics with Eric Taylor, authenticity and vendors. Ninja's doing a webinar with us, right? We do a lot of webinars, but the big thing I wanted to show here is, let me go to my projects. Rather, is there a home button? Where's the pitch it presentation from yesterday? Oh, you guys are watching me do my hard work. Garrett, can you stall? I'll find this presentation.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. So for a lot of you out there, you're watching, you can leave a comment in here, especially for Zach after the fact. You can also, if you are interested, like you said, you can hit him up. You can go to Senteon, Senteon.co. Is that correct, man?
Yep, .co,
Yeah.
so that we do not have an M in there.
Okay. Or you can go to Channel Program and search them and look at reviews that your fellow peers in the MSP have been leaving for them. Because that's one of the things why we built Channel Program is because our knowledge is unique. It's knowledge from the trenches, and only we know this. It's not just some, I'm gonna leave a review. It's like so you get to see what your peers are saying. So definitely search for them, check them out on Channel Program, or go to Senteon.co.
Yep. And circling back to that opening of the webinar, there is the unit Bravo, as we call them, and the quote that these guys have never lied to me about, right? My cats are extremely honest, so take that quote in the center extremely serious. But if you do want to schedule time, scan the QR code, get on my calendar. I do have my email and phone number in the top right, and just mention that you learned about us through the channel program, and I will get you that perk so that you can do all of this completely free before remediation.
All right. Just real quick, you referred to your cats. All right. Is Bravo a plural? Do you refer to that one big old cat as two? Or like what's that? Because I just saw this like big.
Well, he has his own zip code, right? So, but this is Bruno here and Bravo here, and those guys are awesome.
Are they both the same size?
No, Bruno is about 12 pounds here. Since Bravo got camera time, I'll show you Bruno as well. So but this is Bruno here. He's our little 12 pounder, so he's a little bit smaller. Yeah, he's still big, but he's very happy. He always sits with me when I'm not doing webinars. I let him sit on my lap all day. So if you do schedule time with me, you will meet my cats.
Yeah, well, you have like a bag of Cheetos next to them. Like, all right. Well, dude, Zach, this was really great demo, and I appreciate your time in going through this. It's definitely different, because I know a lot of scanning. There's a lot of stuff out there, but just the fact that you can just kind of just make it happen.
There is a lot of
Very interesting.
scans. I can't emphasize that enough. There's a lot of scans, but we're the only ones who do remediation. We turn red marks green. And one other thing, if you are watching this live, I posted a LinkedIn status today. I actually published my results from Channel Programs Battle Royale. Give me some more feedback. Toss it in the LinkedIn comments of my latest post. Happy for you guys to see what other people are saying and hopefully drop some of your positive opinions or negative. Let me know what I can do better.
Yeah, tear them up, people. Tear them up.
I can handle it, I promise.
Yeah. Well, dude, hey, listen, thank you. And thank you for everybody for taking the time to watch this. Feel free to reach out to him or check us out on the channel program. Any last words before we wrap it up, sir?
Nope. Senteon, managed endpoint hardening. Hope you guys can find us online, reach out on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, everybody. You have a great upcoming weekend, and I'll see you out there.